I don't do the most, but I do a lot. I'ma make a toast, cause we still
Okay, so we are
alive.
recording now.
No,
You just
big.
started?
Yeah.
I feel like
Dude, we
Pac.
just went 2 minutes
Shoot
of
the
really
shot.
good content. That was good stuff.
Coming
I'm
in.
just talking about what podcast are we on?
Dude, all right, y'all. So this is Elam B. King. This is the Understanding a Man podcast. And of course, we're just going to give you a couple of topics for today. I don't know these gentlemen right here. I've been listening to them for a little while, so this could come from any angle. So I just want to, I don't have a disclosure statement that some people have.
Oh, yeah. We're not worried about that.
Your show.
But yeah, it doesn't matter. And so listen, I want to take a moment and just give you guys a chance of just introducing yourself. Just even before this, I'm just listening to them. These guys go way back, and then just even to be in the room, because of course Poochie and I have a history from Hampton University, and shout out to those BX noobs just across the land as well. Just shout out to them. So just to be in here. Oh, I forgot about the camera over there. I forgot about that. Listen, they got a dope setup, different wide and narrowed in angles. But so I want to take a moment, throw it to you guys. Who are you? What you do in these unsolicited streets?
Technically, we're just two, men in our very late 40s.
Very late 40s.
Very late 40s.
Yeah.
That have known each other for almost ever.
Right.
And
We've known each other longer than we haven't known each other.
exactly.
Right.
And so
It's like I used to like to put it, yeah.
our opinions
Okay.
sometimes vibe the same way. They flow down the same river, but every
Right.
now and then they break off. And just after years, as you get older, you know how they say people get more ornery as they
Right.
get older, and they don't.
Shout out
They
to
don't-
honorate.
Yeah.
They don't.
That is a straight baby boomer old school
It
word.
is. I mean,
Honorate. That's
yeah.
so funny.
But
But
they don't care what they say after a certain
Certain
amount.
age.
Right.
So we got to the point where we're gonna give you our unsolicited opinions.
Right.
So we, seeing that we two brothers from South Side of Atlanta, we had to add that U in there and make it unsold.
let me tell you, and so I love the concept of it, but what I love more is that I'm just noticing this even more now that the men are starting to talk. We haven't normally expressed it because you guys go down a wide range of different. They go from wings to daggone it to something that be just, sports, whatever, just from one thing to another. But you expressing yourself, and there's a level of education that exists there, in my opinion, of men communicating, because we've been more taught to not share our feelings.
Hold it in, don't say nothing.
And so that I choose to fight that. We were all, raised, don't cry and don't, don't be emotional, right?
Exactly.
We're emotional creatures. Let's now start looking at, that's one thing the big mama or daddy said to us that was wrong.
Yeah, I admit to it. And I don't really feel I was raised not to show emotions though.
Okay.
Because I was an emotional kid. It didn't take much to get the tears going when I was coming up, and my stepfather messed around me, called me soft, of course,
Right.
Because it hit you with
Right.
stop being soft. Like even though I was upset and I would cry over whatever it may be, my little sister, she still teaches me about it to this day. She's like, Brian, you're so emotional.
See,
You're
and
so
I was
sensitive, but I mean it's playful. Me and my sister had that kind of relationship, yes, easily,
But see, most of us were taught, like, it was four boys, there's five of us total, but four of us were raised. And so don't cry, don't act like a girl. Actually, in the book by Dr. Luann Brizendine, she's a neuropsychologist, and she said that she wrote a book on the male brain and the female brain. So she takes you from in vitro straight to like 80 years old and the stuff that we go through as men, right?
Right.
And so she said that for boys, the worst thing that you can call a 3-year-old boy is a girl. And so because of the way our brains are wired to walk in this masculinity, right? From a hormone called Mullerian inhibiting substance. Yeah, shout out to low biology there. So it's called MIS. And so that hormone basically tells us I'm supposed to act like a boy. So if you give me a doll, I'm going to strip it down and kind of like use it as a sword. She used that as an example, right? And then they said as the girls, they have the opposite. So, you give them a fire truck, and she was like, you come back in the room and they're nurturing the fire truck.
Or putting stickers all over
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So it's certain things that we're built inside of. So that's something that I think that it can almost fuel a little mental illness because we're not able to express ourselves. So
Right.
everybody wasn't taught like you. I know I wasn't.
Right, but I mean, I still experienced it because I come from a large family, so I had a lot of male cousins and stuff. I mean, it was always there. The prayer, yeah.
Your peers are going to put that
Your
same
peers
Right.
will put that same pressure on
Yes,
you too,
yes.
because they were raised
the
like
same
that.
way.
Like,
Right,
you know?
right.
So in the neighborhood, you can't really, because you see the people who show that
Right.
get preyed upon.
Right.
In certain communities of
Right.
ours, yeah. So then you try to, even if you don't have it, you put that facade on. Sometimes it's in a survival kind of mode.
Let me tell you something. So I was on the way here, and just to do this podcast, right? And so I ended up taking an Uber, right?
Right.
Because of what we might participate in. So
That's an adult decision.
Because we partake in tasty beverages.
So the driver, he was 25 years old. His name was Paul, and he was just like, if you don't mind me asking you, what do you do? So I would just, told him I was an author, told him about the first book, and then I started talking to him about this next book. So it's called Understanding a Man: Memoirs of a Father to His Son. And so it's basically gentlemen like yourself kind of passing down some things to the young men that they just, if they didn't have a father figure in their life, or now that we're down the road, right? What would you want to tell yourself?
Right.
And so when I shared it with him, he was just like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. He was just, and I thought he was joking in the beginning. And he was like, man, that's so good, because let me tell you about me. Went into telling me how, his grandfather sold drugs, his father sold drugs, both of them went to jail. And then he said, so because I wasn't getting involved in that, they called me soft. They said I acted like a girl. And so I never really had a chance to express myself and my feelings, because that used to hurt me. But they were just teaching me what they knew.
Right.
And so just for that moment, it just, every now and then, in my opinion, God gives me little pieces to say you're at the right place at the right time.
Right.
Because he's just like, man, I'm going to follow you, man. I really want to have a book like that in my life. That'll be so. And I'm just like, oh, wow.
Well, let me jump in here. I guess it was a couple months ago, you posted some videos of yourself having conversations with your son. And I love those, and to the point where I was envious. I was like, I need to sit down with my son and have those conversations. And I'm not sure how old your son is right
26.
now. Okay, so I got a couple more years, because I don't think he's ripe for all of this conversation just yet, for certain stories or things of that nature. But another reason why, outside of just being challenged to start the podcast in the first place, like you were saying earlier, how men don't express themselves or this or that. Part of this podcast, the reason it's so easy is because, and it shouldn't have to be a but or a cause, but the reason it's easy on our podcast presently is because this is the person that I talk to most of the time. This is the person that knows a lot about me. Now he don't get it all.
Nobody gets it all. Nobody gets it all. Nobody gets it all.
But it's spread out in thirds. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
My boy Greg Walker might get some. Edgar Carter might get some.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it's, you know what I'm saying? But I'm comfortable because he already knows. He, there are no facades. He already knows all the flaws and everything.
Yeah.
So it's helped us be raw on the podcast because we had that comfort level.
And the ability to call each other out.
Yeah.
So even in this moment, like I kind of like the hairs on my arm are standing up, because we went into having that conversation of the importance of being in counsel. Because I don't know about you, but we were more taught, if you other than telling the pastor, you don't tell your business, right? And you can't even really tell the pastor, because you don't want them to think something differently about you. So it was so backwards in our culture of not being in counsel. Then we get older, right? And it's kind of like, well, I got something going on, and I heard Poochie had something going on a long time ago, but should I say something to him? Should I follow up with him? Or, but he might think I'm weak, so I keep it inside and I don't say anything. And so you might have gone through what you went through to help me and another 100 people to go through it, right? So we get mentors when it comes to in a sport, right? I was saying you play basketball, so you didn't have a problem having a coach then, right? So if you're going to go get a house, you do like all types of research and let somebody tell you the neighborhood and broker. A broker is basically a counselor in homes, right? You're going to get a job, or you're on a job and you want to advance. You're okay with being an apprentice or whatever case, you're working under somebody, but inside of our culture, our feelings, we don't want to talk to nobody.
Right.
We don't want to have mentorship. You don't want to give at least thirds. So at least he can provide something to you that's helpful.
Right.
I think your dogs are going on.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short commercial break.
We'll be right back.
Oh. That's what I thought. My phone was going off. Yeah. Well, I forgot.
Is it back on?
Yeah, we rolling.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just got my whole life just then with a couple of wings. Whew.
Sometimes that's all it takes. That's all it takes.
So I might dive back in on a couple more. But where I believe we were talking about from a mentorship and
Counsel.
I don't know, just growing up, did you guys you might be like that now, for example, right? That you might go to.
I was thinking this.
Were you like that then?
Back then? No, because I think we were still in the machismo stage where, yeah. But I don't know. Me and him
I'm trying to. That's a good question.
It's a good
like
question.
If a girl, like, come on, at some point a girl messed you up, right? Did you go to your boy and cry or just be like, yo, man, she hurt me, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've all been there. Now that we take the machismo down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
we've
think
all
that
been.
happened.
No,
That's
that
what I'm
never
saying.
that never happened.
I mean,
but
to his credit though, my like super hurt happened much earlier, even before even before I knew him. And so after that, I went through that hardened phase.
Right.
So I didn't have that moment after that where I had to go share it with him. And we had this relationship in our neighborhood where it was a good 6 of us, right? That were like super tight.
Right.
But your bond with one would be tighter.
Yeah.
Right. But
at different times.
But it was shift.
It was shift.
Right.
It was like a 6 month, like kind of like when you're growing crops,
right?
And you had to switch the land,
right.
So at one point it'd be
Come
me
on,
and
crops. I like that.
me and Luke would be out of the 6. Me and Luke would be the tightest. Then 6 months later it might be me and Brian. 6 months later it might be me and Kevin.
And then we've been hanging like that for
and
years.
But
That's
when
good.
when I'm close with him, the other 2 would be just as close.
Right.
And
Right,
the other 2 would be just
yeah.
as close, and it would just rotate.
It was
Right.
never no like jealousy or envy and who was hanging out with who was. I think it just because people would be doing different things. Like when kids would get jobs, you would get jobs, so you would have to hang out with the other friend because the friend you would hang out with is doing other
So
things.
early, you're talking about, like, let's just say college years, right? You know what I'm saying? If you're going through something, you're feeling something, at that point, you were going to, whether it's Brian or somebody else, and having conversation about your emotions.
After high school, I went to the military, so I wasn't showing.
Oh, so you know what you was taught even
Yeah,
more when
yeah,
you got
I
out
was
there.
even
So whatever
more,
you
so
were
I could-
raised in.
I really couldn't show my emotions
Right,
then.
right,
It was
right.
hoorah. So yeah, it was 4 years. It was those years and some years after we didn't really see each other for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, because he went to Hampton law school. I went to the military.
Right.
And we weren't even in the same zip code. And then
Where I want to share with the men is that, in particular, in a couple of chapters, but just overall, what the importance of just having mentorship and
Right.
having somebody that you can go to besides outside of a sport. We know everybody's cool with it doing in a sport, right?
Right.
But just like the gentleman was talking to me in the car today, the Uber driver, and he was just like, man, I've always. It was weird. He was basically saying so many things I was looking to address in the book, and he was just like. Then he started talking about his feelings, right? Towards a woman, right? But right before I go there, when he said my grandfather sold drugs and went to jail, my father sold drugs, went to jail. I said generational curse.
Oh yeah.
Has anybody taught you about that? You know what I'm saying? Of the stuff gets passed down. Good and bad. People got pretty eyes, and they'll be like, "They got my eyes, right?" They want to take the good stuff. You
Right.
pass down bad stuff too.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, what are your thoughts about that with regard to just the generational pieces? Can you look inside of your own and say that there was something that was going to maybe you stopped that generational curse, or you wanted to start
Perpetuated it.
something, or you perpetuated? Because I perpetuated.
I
mine.
feel like I perpetuated mine.
Okay.
In a way with my biological father.
Right.
And I have a son that I don't have a relationship with.
Right.
I did the same thing he did to me.
Right.
Basically. So I know I passed it down.
Okay.
In that aspect. But yeah.
Did you look at your grandparents or your
My
uncles to see if you saw the same pattern?
No pattern there.
Okay.
No pattern there.
Okay.
None. My grandparents stayed together till they died.
Okay.
Big family. 10
Okay.
children. So I got a lot of aunts and uncles and a lot of cousins.
But it's different things. It's not only just family related. Of course, you have everybody. You got alcoholism. You have poverty. You have incarceration.
Right.
You
It's
have
just-
domestic, verbal, and physical
Right.
violence, right? Because you might never touch nobody, but touch them with your words. And now you look down the lane, and everybody has difficulty staying married, right, or keeping a significant other because you constantly doing all that, right? So, what about you, Poochie? If you think about if you look back and come forward, any patterns that you can see, maybe from grandparent to father to you, or even on your mom's side as well. It's not just because.
Yeah, well, there are pluses and I guess pluses and minuses. Like my dad, who's actually living with me right now because of Hurricane Ida, but I didn't grow up with my dad. I would see him sporadically, some summers or not. But his parents, I had a long-lasting relationship with them. And I never had a bad relationship with my father. It just wasn't frequent.
Right.
All right. So, but on that side of the family, it was my grandparents. You know, they were the patriarchs of the whole Howlett clan in Richmond. You know, and because my grandfather happened to be the oldest sibling of all his siblings, so he was the oldest uncle for all of my great uncle or uncle for all my cousins, and he started. So he started a great entrepreneurial bug that a lot of my family has that has passed down. So I can say, yeah, we can
on that side,
and
it goes on both sides.
It goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
It's good stuff and bad stuff.
Yeah, it does.
And
it
so
does.
my grandfather on my mother's side also had an entrepreneurial spirit. He started a cab company with his younger brother. Unfortunately, he went blind due to glaucoma, so he couldn't continue that business. But his younger brother continued it, and is now the largest cab company in Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina. Got a charter service. It's got the contract to the airport. So if you take a cab from the airport, and then all this was pre-Uber.
Okay.
I'm learning stuff about him. I didn't even know this.
And that's you have to take that. So some things are good. Now, as far as on the bad side, and not necessarily, I don't want to say it's bad, but because I didn't know. All right. So in years, I want to say my father showed up in Hampton my senior year at Booty World.
Come on, Booty World. That's a whole other conversation.
I don't even know about that, but I like how that sounds.
He showed up at the house, right? And he showed up at the house. I'm 21 maybe, and he showed up with my little brother. He was like, "Hey, I got somebody to meet. I need you to meet." Right?
Okay.
I didn't know he was coming. Nothing. He just showed up. So I met my little brother then, right? But that was the first time. After that was the first time that we really sat down. Because my father went to Hampton too, played basketball for Hampton and everything. But I didn't get to hear.
Come on, legacy, and that's another thing that was passed on legacy wise,
right? So I never got to hear the stories.
That's the second time that happened. You said not
But
working with me.
If you have
Because it's Eagles, that's why.
No, because you have to notice. You got to put your finger on it when you lift your drink
I
up.
press down when lifting the
'cause
glass.
It's creating suction.
But
it's the coaster, y'all. We talking about the coaster. Keep going to the bottom of my cup. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
But yeah, so I never got to hear like stories of him in college or what things, what they did in college or what trouble or not trouble they got into.
What Booty World did he have?
Right. So exactly. But since then, I'm listening to him tell stories about his days at Hampton and this and that.
Right.
And we did the exact same stuff. I mean, everything. That's like dope. It's like even like going to parties, sneaking beer on campus, all these things sound identical to something like me, Mookie, and Greg Walker were doing. Right. But he just had different names. Okay. It was really like we were
Instead
the reenactment.
World, what would it be if it was in the earlier days? It would be like Derriere,
Shagland.
Shagland. But I like that.
It was really like, when you watch the murder mysteries and they said, this is a reenactment and, we changed the names. I'm listening to stories. It sounded like we were their reenactment.
That's dope.
And they just changed the names.
And the reason why I say that, like, for example, myself, the first person I ever heard talk about generational curses, and so it was the late Bishop Eddie Long. And so it was like 2003, 2004, and I was just like, I ain't never heard. I had never done the big church thing, so I come to Atlanta, and I was just
church.
like, new birth. Wow, okay, all right. And he was talking about generational curse. I was just like, I wonder what my curse is. Oh well, dum 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 dum. Going on with life, right? I'm married.
That's what we all do.
I got 3 kids, 0 to 3, right? And so, and I'm like, oh, okay, keep on going on in life. Oh, wait. Somewhere around 07, 08, I ran into my curse. And that is that all the men on my father's side and my mother's side, everybody has outside children during their marriage. So, I'll just say, let me put it like this: 95% of them, and I have a lot of uncles. I have like 7, 8 uncles.
Right.
And so, and then on my mom's side as well. And so, then here comes my dad, did the same thing. And so I met my brother senior year at Hampton. He was playing for Boston College. So he was a wide receiver. So he's who Brett Hasselbeck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's who Hasselbeck threw to my brother. So that same year, my brother went to the Bucks. The same year the Bucks won the Super Bowl,
Right.
my brother got drafted to the Bucks, and then Hasselbeck got drafted to the Seahawks. So I'm watching my brother for the first time on television.
Right.
So the first time I saw him, he was playing in the XFL. The first time I saw his face was on the XFL.
Wow.
I'm 22. And so my dad heard of that there was somebody, but he didn't tell me until I'm 21. And he told me because he knew I was going to be like, yo, let me find out who he is. Like, there was no animosity. Whatever you did, cool. I want to know who my brother is.
Right? Yeah.
And then, wow, I'm seeing him on TV. So, okay, cool. So I'm trying to figure out who you are.
Right.
So we still real cool to this day, work for Nike, doing this thing. But, if somebody had told me, so what do you think I tell my son right now? Like, listen, your great granddaddy did it. Your granddaddy did it. Your daddy did it. So you need to pay attention
Right.
once you walk into matrimony of, you can't do this. This is not okay.
Right.
So I just wanted, that's just some of the things I just kind of throw out there in the book so that people can understand and kind of know more about themselves. I think we're more almost taught to not really know about ourselves, emotionally particularly.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
We're taught to go do the work and jobs and stuff like that, but knowing yourself emotionally and where you and what your history is, we don't really do that too much.
Well, part of that, and I'm a culprit of this as well. Like we're taught not to ask for help. Like you're supposed to be able to figure this out
on your
Yes,
own.
sir.
On your own.
Yes, sir.
On your
Yes, sir.
own. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And so, like, I don't like asking for help. I mean, it has to get to a certain
degree.
Yeah, it's got to get a certain degree before
It's got to be mission critical on the
Mission-
corner,
yes.
and even then you got pride. That's a state of
even then
pride.
you got pride, and you know your
Ego.
friends, and you're, like him. I know if he's coming to ask you for help, I know it's there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I know it's like mission critical,
Right.
like because I know him,
Right.
right? Because we got that pride.
Yeah.
That pride.
Ego is real
It's
for
real.
men, and it prevents us from. And so let's just say, for example, right? And so we're probably gonna have a part 2 of this, y'all. So of course, let's just stop for a moment. I want to make sure everybody knows how to follow you guys, so that they can get that unsolicited opinions. So
I know you got me up here, open up like I'm on Oprah.
the easiest way, honestly, is to just do hashtag unsolicited opinions in Google, and it'll lead you to one of the shows. Or
Give it to me.
yeah, that's the easiest way to find it. Because
Okay.
if you just try to type
Shoot a shot.
unsolicited, Google,
I'm coming in hot.
Google and what's it, Grammarly? Always try to change.
But yeah, we're on
the spelling.
Instagram, we're on Facebook, Unsolicited Opinions on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the yeah. You can find us. YouTube.
Right.
YouTube, all the videos on YouTube. Unsolicited.
Yeah, coming in
And so
hot.
this is what we're gonna do.
Just like
And
the
yeah, y'all hear
Wings
this
good. How about to say the wings sound good?
Wings 101. Keep
We
my,
did shout the wings
give me my whole life right now. Right?